Welcome to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. Welcome back to our second segment. I want to thank Bank Hometown St. Vincent Hospital for sponsoring the show. Very pleased to have with us in this second segment Maria Juncos Gautier, who is the director of the Latino Education Institute at Worcester State University. Maria, a major milestone for the Latino Education Institute, also known as LEI.
The famous LEI here in Worcester. It's fun. It's funny. I go around and they say the Latino Education Institute. People say, "What? The LEI?"
Yeah.
It's LEI. Yes.
So 25 years, that's a pretty significant history. But maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of the mission, and then we can maybe talk a little about some of the history of it as well.
Well, actually, our mission is to be sure of the academic achievement of Latino students from elementary school to college. As you know, many of them sometimes are first generation immigrant, English is their second language, and they have educational gaps. What we want to do is be sure that they succeed in school so they can get into college. Right. So we are very focused on that pipeline to college, and we offer a lot of after-school programming so we can strengthen a lot of things. For example, we can give them tutoring in math, in English, because they're learning English. We also provide them with a lot of social emotional learning, cultural awareness, cultural wealth activities, so they feel proud of where they come from. And so basically they're focused, and also we work a lot with family engagement, which is how to navigate the public school system, even the public health system here in Worcester. Some of the families don't know because of language barriers. Right. So the idea is to make sure that those Latino students and families succeed and become productive citizens here in Worcester.
Right, and the origins, were I think driven, the founding of it by some Latino leaders in the community who've been active on different fronts. As we saw, the demographics of the city rapidly changing. Worcester Public Schools, 26,000. We've seen consistently the growth in the Latino community, and if educators and policymakers, whether it be school committee, superintendent, school leadership, want to make sure that students are successful academically, that they're passing the MCAS, other types of it really is important to understand where the students are coming up from, some of the challenge that they face. And that was kind of the origins of why the Latino Education Institute was started, to try to bring those extra awareness and supports to educators, but just as importantly, or more importantly, to families and the students themselves.
Exactly. And you mentioned you were a mayor.
Yes,
you were mayor by that time.
When we had helped kind of with working with Congressman McGovern and other leadership, particularly at Worcester State University.
Back then, Worcester State College.
Yeah, Worcester State College. Then try to help bring some focus and funding.
You were here. I was not here. Yeah. I have been at the LEI. This is going to be my 4th year, right. And as you can tell, I have a big accent because I come directly from Puerto Rico. Though I was doing my PhD in Toronto, Canada. Yeah. Then I came here. But anyway, yes, if you see the demographics, I mean, right now, almost 50% of the students in Worcester Public Schools are Latinos. When the LEI started 25 years ago, it was 28%.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a humongous growth.
Yes.
And I was at a presentation the other day of Latinos for Education, and they gave this data that almost already 29% of the children in Massachusetts are considered Latinos.
Right.
So that means education is important, so they can actually succeed in school, get to college, probably master's degree. We want them to become responsible citizens. Remember that some of them comes with some educational gaps, right. English language or gaps because they're learning English. And also remember that in the last centuries, there was this perspective of deficit thinking instead of cultural wealth. All the cultural wealth they can bring to the community for the growth of the community and the benefit. So now education is changing a little bit to see these kids with cultural wealth and how we can help them so they can become part of the society. And if you think about it, that's a humongous amount of students, 50%. That's almost 12,000.
And a lot of the programs, there's some that you run that are school focused, but many of them are after school.
Yeah, after school.
Summer.
And summer.
During the breaks. Try to keep students engaged, make sure that there isn't, you're closing those gaps. That family engagement piece is really important. And, the Latino community is also not monolithic. Your story is from Puerto Rico. Somebody from Mexico or Guatemala could be a little bit different in terms of that country and culture. Right. So it's important to have some understanding and appreciation for that, and that's a part of your work as well.
Yeah, and for example, we do a lot of cultural wealth events, and there's like people bring food from their countries. One thing that is common is the language. We all can communicate in the same language, but definitely there's cultural differences, and we can learn from each other, as well as how to adapt to the cultural difference here in United States and North America, right? So, in diversity, there is richness. So how can you actually use that as an asset to strengthen society, and so they can become part of the Worcester society?
And, at the time...
It's in a positive way always, right? Diversity is in nature.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's who we are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing those demographics, there were educated, the educational leadership in those public schools in many ways embraced this opportunity because, oftentimes, we don't have the number of teachers and instructors that necessarily reflect the background of the diversity.
Yes.
So to have a resource like the Latino Education Institute can help teachers in the classroom, can help principals, help policymakers, superintendents, do the right things to help get those academic goals achieved.
And let me tell you, we use a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
Especially college student mentors. So we also hire BIPOC and Latino students, which is excellent for them because then they graduate with some work experience, especially students in psychology, early education, in education departments. And so when they graduate, they have an experience already. So it's excellent because also, just to give you one data, the students, high schoolers that go through our program, 84% enroll in college. Of those 84%, 40% goes to Worcester State University. Mm-hmm. The other 40, kind of half and half, goes to QCC, which then they transfer from QCC to Worcester State. So we are doing a great job in the community. 84%, we can reduce the gap, they can enroll into college, and that's a very successful story for the LAI. And this is statistic that we have been collecting for the last 14 years.
Well, on that note, we'll end on that successful note. Great return on investment. Not just from the dollars and cents, but as you've met, well-educated citizens who are giving back and going to be successful to the community.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations on 25 years.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, come back for our final segment.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.
Hi, my name is Tim Murray, President and CEO of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce and former Lieutenant Governor of Massachusetts. One of the great stories in public education today has been the success of our vocational technical high schools and Chapter 74 programs. Why? Those programs at our high schools not only have our students graduating with a high school diploma, but an industry-recognized credential that prepares them for the world of work. We need more vocational technical high school for all of our students. Unfortunately, Governor Healy has put a short-sighted proposal forward that would create a lottery system, unproven, that would determine how students get into our VoTech programs. And unfortunately, that also pits students against students in our urban, suburban, and rural communities. So we're asking you to help us take action. Say no to Governor Healy's short-sighted proposal and say yes to universal access to vocational technical high schools and Chapter 74 programs. Please go to mavotechcoalition.org to learn how you can help us by calling your state rep, your state senator, emailing them and letting them know that we need to have universal access for our Chapter 74 vocational technical programs for all of our kids, no matter where they are in the state.